Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Am I live? I want to make sure. It still says waiting over here. Okay. Let's try it again. There we go. Hello, everybody. There we go. Can you? It's working. Amazing. All right. Hello, and welcome to the stream, everybody. I've got a great show lined up for you today. I've got all my stuff in position. I'm excited about it. Hello, Ian Park, and hello, Praise Christ Yoga. Say hi in the chat if you are here and you haven't yet, and I want to read all your messages today. I'm going to talk about manifestation and different methods of manifestation. I've got one particular method I want to talk about, and then we're also going to go over some more ways to find your purpose, because we didn't quite get through that a couple weeks ago, and I have a lot more ideas about that. I want to talk about pre-birth memories, which I've recently found. I've talked about near-death experiences, but also talking about pre-birth memories is really fascinating to me. There's one guy whose interview has shared a lot of great information with me, great ideas that I want to share with you guys also. Hello, Matthew A., and hello, Zachariah. Welcome to the stream, guys. I got to close my door. I'll be right back. 1 second. I'm still here, I promise. That's why it's a live broadcast, right? It wouldn't be a live broadcast if something didn't go a little wrong, a little weird. All right, so first thing I want to talk about is, here we go. I want to talk about manifestation. So if you're not familiar with manifestation, it's all the rage nowadays. People talk about it. It's basically creating what you want in the universe, right? People are starting to understand that the universe and reality are not exactly what we've been brought up to believe they are. We've been brought up to believe that they are totally static, totally subject to physical laws only, and that's the only thing that really governs what happens. And people are realizing that's not true. Some people accept that it's spirit and it's God that is able to influence the world, and our own consciousness affects the world, right? That's been proven through experiments. And some people call it, some people say, well, this proves that we're in a simulation, right? Which to me is kind of it's a way to get out of accepting that there's God and that there is a spirit world. Right, which is to me a more clean and clear explanation, especially if you look at all the evidence. There's plenty of evidence, and I have a video about this, about near-death experiences, past life regressions, physical evidence for past lives, scientific studies of mediums who speak to people who are deceased, or are really deceased, but they speak to them, and then they've done scientific experiments that show that it's impossible for them to achieve this or to retrieve this information. So all this goes together to make people realize that, the power of positive thinking, the power of manifestation is available to us. And as you can see on the screen, the first thing I want to mention is why I don't usually try to manifest anymore. I got big into this manifestation stuff. I've been aware of it for about 15 years. And when I first got into it, I was like obsessed with it, right? As you can imagine, most people who first discover that it's like, oh, I can create whatever I want in my life just by like imagining it and then kind of getting myself there. And we'll talk about this in a few minutes, how to get there. But, it takes away all these limiting beliefs, which I think is one of the great purposes of it. But I think the downside to it are what I'm going to talk about here. So number one, going with the flow. I think, our life is filled with purpose and experiences and lessons that we need to learn. And if we're constantly thinking about what we want out of the world, we're going to miss a lot of those things. We're going to miss the signs. We're going to miss the opportunities that we have to grow and to really learn what we need to learn. I'm going to turn up my mic just a little bit. I think I'm a little quiet. There we go. So if you're obsessed with manifesting, if you're like in your mind like, okay, I want to create this next thing that I want, or whatever other thing it is, maybe you have a list of things. But if you're constantly thinking about creating those things for the purpose of having them in your life, you're not going to be open to what is. You're not going to be open to what's happening in your life, and that's going to stunt your growth, and it's going to affect your appreciation of your experiences. And that's number 3. It's like, I think one of the main purposes of life, or the goals of life, is to not be dependent on the external experience to have a internal peace or internal joy and happiness. And that comes from connection to God. It comes from self-knowledge. It comes from, having the right worldview, in my opinion, which is to understand that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, right? So, and the last piece I want to mention is, I feel like when people are trying to manifest, and it's almost a paradox. You'll see this in a minute when we get into the steps of manifestation. But when you're trying to manifest something, you're tense. You have this tension. At least this was the case for me. It's like there's all these things that I want to see happen, and then when you don't see them happening, you get tense, you get upset. You're like, what is it that I'm doing wrong? So I want to basically start this stream by explaining that you should be careful with this idea of manifestation. I think it is absolutely true. I think you definitely can create almost anything in your life, and we've talked about in previous streams about why there are certain things that I don't think you can create, or that if you could create them through a lot of dedicated effort, but the reason that they're hard for you to get to is because your spirit is trying to guide you somewhere else. Perhaps, let's say winning the lottery might actually be very bad for your spiritual growth and for your life purpose. And so, if you try to manifest winning the lottery and it's not happening, it might be because that's not the way you're supposed to go. But also I think, this idea of manifestation, it helps a lot of people get out of the limiting beliefs that they have about life, get out of old patterns that have become old and stale and painful. And it allows you to kind of commune with God. You pray and then it comes to you. You realize, wow, God's listening to me. And that's obviously very empowering. And sometimes understanding manifestation or experiencing manifestation, experiencing the magic of life is part of your path, is part of learning about how life works. And I'm still kind of grappling with, as I said before, it's like I don't want to try to manifest too much, but I also I'm interested in seeing certain things happen. I've realized recently that a lot of the selfish manifestations that I was seeking don't interest me anymore. And what really interests me is manifestations on like a global scale. Like I want to see things happen in the world and to our country and to the planet that are good. And that's why I started this channel, is because I really want to see positive things happen in the world. I think I've spent a long time focused on the negative things that are happening in the world. I know a lot of my friends have, probably you have as well. And I realize that I want to have a positive effect on the world, and I want to see that positive effect. So if I'm going to use my manifestation abilities for anything, that's really what I want to manifest. Like I want to manifest, better things happening, the negative things going away, people being happy with what's happening to humanity, people being optimistic, these kind of things. And as I mentioned before, sometimes there's things in our lives that we really do need to change, and we need help from God or from the universe and spirit. And so manifestation can be a method of doing that. And one of the biggest things is healing. I've seen and experienced, I've made a video about it, the miraculous healing things that can happen. And I feel like healing is probably the best use case for manifestation, is to attain healing. I don't think, although sometimes having injuries and pain and sicknesses are part of our path, but I think most of the time, even if they are part of our path, if we can come to the place where we can ask God for help, we're ready to move past that problem. So I want to get into, so before I do that, I want to read this chat. Let's see. Matthew A says, ask and ye shall receive. But the more connected we are, we only ask what the universe wants us to have. So we become one. Yeah. Yes. Thank you, Matthew. Yeah, I agree. And that's like going with the flow. You know, seeking a manifestation or seeking certain things can be in going with the flow if that thing is in line with your path and with your life. But I think when a lot of people, and I'm speaking from experience, in my experience, when I first learned about manifestation, I was like, oh, wow, I can have all these things that I've always wanted. And then you try to get these things, and it takes you away from the flow of your life. I think the best way to look at it is like, what is the flow of my life? What is the next thing that I can learn? How can I, that's a great thing to manifest. Like, can I please manifest the fastest path to learn the next lesson that I need to learn, right? Can I make it to the next level spiritually and in my life in your way, dear Lord, dear God? And that's a great prayer. Anytime you pray for anything, you say, if it is your will, God. You let go of really needing that thing. And you'll see that's part of the steps here. So I want to talk about Bashar. Maybe you know about him, maybe you don't. He has 7 steps to manifestation. He's a fantastic spiritual teacher. I recommend his work. And I'm going to get into his 7 steps today. So here are Bashar's 7 steps to manifestation. Make it a little bigger for you. So just real quick, the 7 steps, okay? Step 1, vision. Visualize what you want. Step 2, desire. Step 3, belief. Step 4, acceptance. Step 5, intention. Step 6, action. And step 7, allowance. So we're going to go through them one at a time. Want to read the chat though. Matthew A says, oh, careful. Hurry up and learn the lesson I need to learn. Some of my lessons, I would hate to cram all that learning into a short time. A few of my lessons were painful. Yeah. Well, I think, how painful do they have to be? I guess what I'm saying is, you ask for help with your lessons instead of asking for more money or, I don't know, more fame or, a perfect relationship or whatever it is that you're asking for. If you orient your wish, your prayers towards what you really need, then God is going to give it to you more likely. But if you ask for just, some arbitrary thing that you're seeking, then you're not going to have as good a time. But I know what you mean, Matthew. I mean, it makes sense. And I had that reservation as I was saying that, like, what could go wrong there? But I think, in prayer, and this is part of manifestation, I don't think you can get things that are going to be bad for you, right? So if you pray and it comes to you, it's because it was supposed to come to you. And in praying, you let go of some of the things that were stopping you from getting it by basically giving it up to a higher power. A lot of manifestation teachers talk about how it's really letting go. And that's the 7th step here, right? Allowance, detach from the outcome. So we'll get there, but let's start with number 1. Visualize what you want. Everybody who teaches manifestation teaches this first step. Everything begins in the mind. We're going to talk about the 8 Hermetic Principles. And the first Hermetic Principle is actually important for this. The principle of mentalism. Okay? The idea is that all of the creation is actually in the mind of God. And because we are created in the image of God, then in order to create anything, it must first be created in our minds. Okay? So let's go back to the 7 steps. So in order to create what you want, you must first be able to imagine it. Everything is born in the imagination. The imagination is the playground of the soul. if you follow, one of my favorite manifestation teachers is Neville Goddard, and that is, everything for him is about imagination. So the first step is to be able to imagine the thing, okay? The second step is desire, okay? So this is something that Bashar teaches, and I feel like this is one of my favorite teachings, and it has made my life so much easier and more straightforward. The idea is to follow your highest excitement. So when you visualize the thing, it will create an emotion in you. And you want to be so excited about that outcome. And you don't want to be just excited about it because you think you know that it's a good thing. But you're excited because when you visualize it, and when you visualize, the more you visualize, you will build that picture in your mind to get to that emotion. And that will tell you if this is something that is good for you or not. Because our emotions are our connection to our higher self and to our spirit. So in order to manifest something, it has to be something that you are intensely excited about. So you're going to have to get creative as you do the visualization, and you're going to want it, and you're going to make little adjustments in your visualization to tune it towards your excitement. So that's step 2. Step 3 is belief. Believe what you desire is possible to manifest. So this is a big one, and what I mentioned earlier, manifestation is like a method of getting rid of limiting beliefs. And so, if you, and I believe that, most people have limiting beliefs in their worldview of the way that life works. The most limiting belief being that, there is no God, for example, or there is no such thing as spirit. As I mentioned before, we were all taught that the universe is like a random accident. And so in this random accident, there is no help. There is nothing that's going to come and help you get to the thing that you're trying to get to, the thing you're trying to manifest. And so if you have that worldview, it's going to be very hard for you to believe that you can have some great grand vision that you've created. But if you understand that we are all children of God, we are part of God, God has given us the power of creation, we can really create almost anything. And, again, the only reason there's certain things we can't create or that we shouldn't create is because they wouldn't be good for our life purpose. But we can even overcome that if we truly desire it. We can ultimately have anything. And so this is part of the belief. You have to analyze what beliefs do you have as you engage in this process of manifestation, or the process of, coming up with your manifestation ideas. You have to decide or realize what beliefs you have that are not serving you. What limiting beliefs are not any good. And this is step 3. Now, step 4, acceptance. Accept your belief and your ability to manifest it as being true. And this kind of blends into number 3. But, if you when you analyze your beliefs, you really have to accept the changes that you've made to your belief system. And this might take convincing yourself, finding sources, finding mentors, finding, YouTube videos or, books, or whatever source, to allow you to accept it. And also, I think another method of accepting is to start to see the results of your attempts at manifestation, right? Step 5 is to intend. So wanting and intending are different. You must have the intention to manifest your desire. This goes back to step 2, which is, what is your emotion when you think about reaching this goal or having this thing come into your life? Sometimes we think that the idea of something might be fun, and you're like, oh, I want that. But intention is not just wanting it. It is, I want that, and I'm going to make it happen, right? It's a decision. It's a very strong 100% certainty that this is the thing that you want. And it's funny because, there's so many things we say we want, but if you really get to this step and you decide and you say, okay, I want this thing, you might realize you don't want it, And that's why this step is important. and often skipped by a lot of people because people don't really analyze what their life would be like if they got this thing. So do you really intend to have this thing? Are you willing to do the next step, which is action? Act and behave like your desire has already manifested. And the wording here, I don't know if I totally agree with it. This has been repeated often. It's like, well, just act like you already have the thing and then it will come to your life. And I feel like that's kind of skipping a step. What action is really about is taking action in the physical world that's going to get you to the thing that you say you want, that you're trying to manifest. I believe it's a lie that has been perpetuated by a lot of spiritual teachers, by a lot of people teaching manifestation, that you can just act and behave like your desire is already manifested and it will just come to you. I don't think that's true. You act and behave like you would, like someone who would have this thing. You understand the subtle difference? The subtle difference being your actions are going to get you to that thing in part. You are going to play a part of the manifestation. The physical world is still a real thing. It is still, what we were taught as children about physics and, maybe not the origin of the universe. And maybe there's a lot of, or not maybe, there is a lot of aspects of the universe like God and spirit that exist that we were told don't exist. But that we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? We don't want to just say, oh, we don't know anything anymore. There's plenty of things that are true. And we've learned a lot about the physical world in our lives, right? If you're an adult, you have learned all the things about the physical world. I have 2 children, and I watch them learn and get excited about the most mundane things, right? Like my daughter will get excited when her younger brother will say a new word. His ability to say a new word or to understand, a game or something. It's so simple and basic, but it's exciting. And it's exciting because learning about the physical world is just as important as learning about the spiritual world, and they are actually one and the same, right? And now step 7, allowance. Detach from the outcome. You have to be intense in your desire without any expectation that it manifests. And this is probably the hardest one because it's a great paradox. It's a paradox to have a strong desire to be super excited about something coming and also be okay with it not coming. And, I feel like I've practiced this, and so I kind of understand it. And this is what I was saying about not having tension in your attempts to manifest. That is one of the keys. So in order to detach, I believe that you need to kind of stay in step 6, which is to take action, and to be taking action that you're excited about taking. To be engaged in things in your life that you are doing for their own sake and not because of the outcome you're reaching. And we talked about this, about growth mindset, right? And there are studies of athletes who enjoy the process, who focus on the process of practice, the basics, practicing the basics for 100,000 hours or 10,000 hours to reach mastery. Those athletes perform better than the athletes who every day look at the championship trophy that they want, or maybe they visualize themselves on the winning stand, being cheered by the crowd, because they're seeking an outcome that isn't the same thing as the process. So I believe one of the great lessons for step 7 here is to enjoy the process and to focus on the process and to accept that the process may be all that you get. The universe is not obliged to give us exactly what we want. There's a great Wahoo Ching quote. I'm going to read it here. Let me pull it up. Obliged. We will search for obliged. How can the divine oneness be seen? In beautiful forms, breathtaking wonders, awe-inspiring miracles? The Tao is not obliged to present itself this way. It is always present and always available. When speech is exhausted and mind dissolved, it presents itself. When clarity and purity are cultivated, it reveals itself. When sincerity is unconditional, it unveils itself. If you are willing to be lived by it, you will see it everywhere, even in the most ordinary things. So that last line, when sincerity is unconditional, it unveils itself. That is, when sincerity is unconditional, it unveils itself. So to me, that is your immersion in the process. You are so sincere. You are not trying to fool the universe. You're not trying to fool yourself. You are sincerely engaged in the process, and that is the letting go of the outcome. And realizing that you are not going to be a perfect master of manifestation. And if you were, you would be God himself, right? So the Tao is not obliged to present itself this way. That is to say, you don't know that you're going to get the outcome. So you need to be okay with the process, and also be okay with the outcome being something different than what you have envisioned. One of the great lessons that I've learned from this process is that if you are so focused on one specific outcome, you are not allowing God to bring you the better outcome, the more interesting, the more inspiring and exciting outcome. So you wish for this outcome, you imagine it, and you follow these steps, the 7 steps, but you never are attached to one particular outcome. All right. So that is the 7 steps to manifesting. Let me know in the chat if you have any experience with this, or opinions or ideas, questions, comments. Please let me know. So I want to get into, while I will answer any questions about that, but we will get into the next phase of the live stream. I wanted to talk about the 8 principles of Hermeticism, and this is from one of my favorite presenters, Mark Passio. He calls it natural law, and I believe it's about the same thing. He has 7 principles here. There's an 8th hidden principle that he mentions. So I want to go through these 8 principles and explain how that shows you the way that the universe works. And once you understand these things, it will help with your manifestation. It'll help you to embrace the flow of life. Okay, you could think of these as laws of physics that you were never taught, or that you were taught indirectly. Right? Matthew says, sincerity is key regardless of the outcome. Right, exactly. Yeah, I love that quote. When sincerity is unconditional, it unveils itself. When clarity and purity are cultivated, it reveals itself. Right? And also, that the Tao is always, or God is always available. No matter how mundane the situation, it is always there, and it does not have to be in the form of a miracle or some incredible thing that just blows your mind or changes your paradigm. Your ability to see God in every situation is going to really allow you to understand the way life works. All right, so here are the first 7 principles of Hermeticism. Number 1, the principle of mentalism. We briefly talked about that. Second, the principle of correspondence. Third, the principle of vibration. Fourth, the principle of polarity. Fifth, the principle of rhythm. Sixth, the principle of cause and effect. And 7th, the principle of gender. And then we'll get into the 8th principle, the 8th hidden principle. once we go through these. So the first principle is the principle of mentalism. And we talked about this a little bit before, but let's get a little bit deeper into it. All is mind. The universe is mental. Thoughts lead to the manifestation of things and events. Thoughts create our existence and the quality of our experience here on Earth. Therefore, you must be responsible for everything that you create by being responsible for everything that you think. And this is a really tough one, I think, for a lot of people to accept, because I think I'm speaking from experience, but I think it is hard for me to accept that my thoughts can have negative or positive effects on the world. Or at least I think of my thoughts as like this private place where I can do anything, right? And I think that's true to an extent. But if you habitually repeat a thought, or if you focus on a thought for a long time and you let it kind of sink into your person and kind of take over your life, let's say the more emotions that you feel about a thought, that is going to start to have ripple effects into your life. So as Mark Passio says here, you must be responsible for what you create by being responsible for what you think. And this comes from the reality that all of existence comes from the mind of God, and we are a microcosm of that truth. Okay? And again, in the chat, let me know if you're following me, if you're having any questions or confusion, let me know in the chat. So that's the first step. The first principle is the principle of mentalism. The second principle is that of correspondence. That which is above is like to that which is below. That which is below is like to that which is above. The macrocosm, the very large, and the microcosm, the very small, are reflections of each other. The universe is holographic, as it is self-similar across all scales. So this is what I was just talking about. Because reality is in the mind of God, and we are like a microcosm of God. Because of this law of correspondence, God is above and we are below, but we are reflections of each other, as you can see in this picture. That's why he shows a reflection. And so the principle of mentalism, as it applies to the mind of God, also applies to our mind and our experience of life. And you can see this is true because your perspective, your beliefs, your emotions, they all govern the way that you live your life. Even if you don't buy into the magical ideas of manifestation and materialization of your thoughts, you can at least see how your life is filtered through your mind and through your thoughts. So this idea of correspondence, I thought it would be helpful to show you something, which is a fractal, okay? This is a fractal. A fractal is something where no matter how far you zoom in or zoom out, it repeats. And so this is the idea of correspondence in action and visually represented. Okay, I don't know if you've seen this. This image has repeated a couple times already. All right, this is where we started, and now we're going back and we're zooming in, and we continue to zoom in, and we find the same images are repeating as we zoom in. And the universe is constructed in this way. I actually feel like I should have pulled up a picture, but I could probably pull it up here. Let's see. So universe and neurons. Okay? Yeah, this is exactly what I wanted to show you. So on one side, you have a map of a human neuron, your human brain cell. And on the other, you have the universe. Okay? You can see how they are almost the same. And this is the principle of correspondence. So fractals are a perfect study in the idea of correspondence. And we can see this in so many different places, right? Like the internal world is a fractal of the external world. the life of our communities is a fractal of our nation, and our nation is a fractal of the world. And so as you zoom in and out of all of these different spheres of consciousness, you could say, you will see the same themes repeated. And so basically the idea is that on different scales, things don't change the way that they work. These laws apply on every scale. Okay? And I think that that's a very powerful thing to remember. These laws are universal across time and space and scales. And another way to think of this is that a lot of the same things that are important here in the physical world are important in the spiritual world. And even as we grow spiritually and, say, ascend to another level, the ascension will give us a greater perspective, but nothing will really change in terms of the principles that are important. Another way to think of this is that we have access to all of the same information that the highest spiritual beings have access to as well. Okay, so that's correspondence. The third principle is that of vibration. And this is something that I think most people are kind of familiar with. This is taught in physics, right? So vibration, everything vibrates. There's nothing stationary. So nothing rests. Everything moves. Everything vibrates. At the most fundamental level, the universe and everything which comprises it is pure vibratory energy, manifesting itself in different ways. The universe has no solidity as such. Matter is merely energy in a state of vibration. And so we know this is true when we study atoms, and that's another correspondence, right? If you zoom in on an atom, it looks a lot like the solar system, right? So everything vibrates, and often when people are talking about manifestation, they say you need to bring your vibration to this level. And people also talk about the vibration of different emotions, right? Yeah. So this scale of this scale of emotions, the idea being that the higher up you are, the higher your vibration, and so the greater things that will come into your life. And I think that is true on a certain level, but I think what's more true is that all of these vibrations are always available to you, and it's just a question of which thing are you tuning into. It's like if you understand how radios work, they tune into a specific vibration of radio waves, and then that is the only vibration you can hear on your radio. And I believe that our life functions in much the same way. So which vibration are we tuned into? You can see here, this scale actually has more negative stuff on it than positive. It turns neutral right here at contentment. Okay, and then I've seen scales that are a little more balanced. Let's see if we can find a better one. Maybe this one. This is too blurry. That's all right. You get the idea. So everything is vibration, and everything is in motion. So that is actually somewhat correspondent to the next two. Actually, why don't we skip ahead to principle 5, because I believe this one is very similar. So vibration is like on the micro scale. So everything is vibrating, infinite number of times, maybe not infinite, but a specific number of times per second, say, 100 million times per second. That's vibration. And then rhythm is, I believe, vibration on a larger scale. So on a larger scale, everything flows out and in. Everything has its tides. All things rise and fall. The pendulum swing manifests in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. So the idea is that while everything is vibrating, also on a larger scale, on the macro scale, everything vibrates or flows over time. And so I I believe that this is something that we see in our life or in the world today, where things seem to be negative, or they have been negative. And I believe and I feel that the pendulum is swinging back to the other side. And I hope and I feel, I do think this is true. You know, the more negative that it went in that other direction, the further it will swing back to the side of good. And I believe that we're going to see that hopefully in our lifetimes. So rhythm and vibration, that's the fourth principle, is rhythm. So let's go back to that's the fifth principle. We went through 1, 2, 3, and 5, and then we'll go back to 4. Polarity. So here you can see the picture of yin and yang. So that's like the masculine and the feminine, the initiating and the responding, right? Heaven and earth. Everything is dual, and everything has poles. Everything has its pair of opposites. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet. All paradoxes may be reconciled. So polarity teaches us that anything that we can define is because there is another definition. And there's a perfect Tao Te Ching quote about this. Let's see. Long and short define each other. So, and this is the second passage of the Tao Te Ching. When people see some things as beautiful, other things become ugly. So you can see in this passage, he explains how every single thing, every judgment that we make is because of polarity. Because one thing is beautiful, other things become ugly. When people see some things as good, other things become bad. Being and non-being create each other. Difficult and easy support each other. Long and short define each other. High and low depend on each other. Before and after follow each other. Therefore, the master acts without doing anything and teaches without saying anything. Things arise and she lets them come. Things disappear and she lets them go. She has but doesn't possess, acts but doesn't expect. When her work is done, she forgets it. That is why it lasts forever. So you can see the paradoxes built into this passage. I believe one of the lessons of this passage is that the polarity shows you that you should never be attached to one end of the pole or to the other. It is far better and wiser for you to be able to see both poles and to reside in the center. That is a counsel often repeated in the Tao Te Ching. Just search for the word center. Yeah. Throw away holiness and wisdom, and people will be 100 times happier. Throw away morality and justice, and people will do the right thing. Throw away industry and profit, and there won't be any thieves. If these three aren't enough, just stay at the center of the circle, and let all things take their course. So that is the principle of polarity, and to remember that everything has its opposite, everything has its other aspect, and within each aspect, each extreme contains the opposite. And that is a principle of the I Ching. We've done I Ching readings several times on this stream. I was thinking about doing another one a little later. But one of the principles of the I Ching is that when yang energy, which is masculine energy, goes to its extreme, it actually becomes yin energy. And when yin energy goes to its extreme, it becomes yang energy. A good example of this is water, which is the most yin thing because it flows down, it has no will of its own. But there is nothing more powerful than water in some circumstances. So that is yin becoming yang. You might as well just read the water quote from the Tao Te Ching. Nothing in the world is as soft and yielding as water, yet for dissolving the hard and inflexible, nothing can surpass it. The soft overcomes the hard, the gentle overcomes the rigid. Everyone knows this is true, but few can put it into practice. Therefore the master remains serene in the midst of sorrow. Evil cannot enter his heart, because he has given up helping. He is people's greatest help. True words seem paradoxical. Got a couple chats. Yale C says, "Yay, at least I can catch the end." Glad you're here, Yale. Good to see you. Matthew A says, "Sounds like my wife and I." Well, yeah. Yes, exactly. Which actually leads me to the next principle I want to discuss. So polarity, I believe, relates very directly to the principle of gender. Gender is the state of coexistence between masculine and feminine in ourselves. The left brain facilitates the masculine or the intellect, while the right brain facilitates the feminine or intuition. So gender here, and I had to do some reading and understanding of what is really the difference between gender and polarity. So polarity is on like a grand scale. In the universe, there is polarity for all things. But gender is like the polarity within human beings and within, I guess, living creatures that we can relate to. And so it's almost this, it's basically the same, just like vibration and rhythm are almost the same. Gender is the aspects of ourselves that we have both. And some people are more masculine and some people are more feminine, but there is no person who is purely masculine and there's no person who is purely feminine, because that is not functional. So gender is, it's like a deeper understanding of the way that polarity manifests in human beings and embracing the differences and the different aspects of ourselves through gender. All right, so that is most of the principles. The only one we haven't talked about is this one, cause and effect. Every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to law. Chance is but a name for law not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law. So cause and effect is to say that nothing happens that doesn't make any sense, right? Like God is the ultimate cause, right? And so this is almost a law speaking to the fact that there are laws, that everything that happens in our lives, everything that we see and experience has cause and effect. And just because we cannot understand or see the cause does not mean that it doesn't exist. As it says here, chance is a name for law not recognized. So this is a powerful one for me when I think about my life, and once I became aware of all the signs and synchronicities that are happening, then you can see that there is a great cause for these things. You know, when you think that coincidence exists and by random chance, you will not understand that coincidences are caused by synchronicity, the principle of synchronicity and the principle of correspondence, right? Which I believe synchronicity is a result of correspondence. So this is basically saying that there is law for everything that happens. There is always a cause and effect. So, and now we'll come to the eighth principle. And the eighth principle, you can see the eighth principle encompasses the other three, or the other seven. The eighth principle is the principle of care. The lost principle of care. What we care about on a day-to-day basis acts as the driving force of our thoughts and actions. Therefore, care can be seen as the ultimate generator of the quality of our experience. This principle has been referred to as the generative principle. The word generative is derived from the Latin verb generare, which means to create. And so care is built into the universe, and you can think of this as, why does existence exist? It exists because God cared to create it. This is the same in our lives. If we want something to happen, we care that it happens. This might sound obvious, but how many times have you said the words, I don't care, right? I know I've actually, since I've been studying this, when I say those words, I'm like, wow, I need to really be careful with that thought to say, oh, I don't care. because often it's not true. We do care, and care is important. And I think that, Mark Passio calls it the lost principle, because he says there are so many things that in this world that people don't care about anymore, that they say that they care about, but they're not willing to put their heart on the line. That's where I see it. And I talk about this in the 5 Elements video, that the principle of care comes from the heart, which contains the fire element. Do we care enough to burn with passion about this thing that we are working on, or that we claim that we care about? That is the question. And so all these other principles basically wouldn't exist without the care to manifest them, right? And there are stories and explanations of the universe that, the archangels and the highest spiritual beings, they work to maintain existence, and they do that through caring about it, right? So those are the 8 principles of Hermeticism, and they are outlined in the book The Kabbalion, which I recommend and we've read on this stream. This book. Yeah, I have this copy. I don't want to run out and grab it, but I'll just show you the cover of it. It was released in the early 1900s, and it's a very simple approach to Hermeticism. And this is a perfect fractal symbol, right? The circle with the triangle and the square, and then as you zoom in, you can imagine I actually have a similar fractal, right? So it is contained within, over and over, right? So that is the symbol of Hermeticism, which is the ancient Greek mystic tradition. All right, it is 3:25. We've got 35 minutes left. I have other things I want to talk about, but I wanted to kind of, chill a little bit. I was going to share different things with you guys. I thought it might be fun to do an I Ching reading. I wanted to get back into some of the purpose discussion that I had before. Let me know in the chat what you're interested in. We can go back to talking about purpose. I have a whole nother set of ideas for that. I can show you some of my videos and pictures that I've gathered through creating the Way of Service. And I can do an I Ching reading. So let's see if we get any votes in the chat. I'm going to look through here. I wanted to show this one. There's a social media study. There's the 9 intelligencies. Thought I pulled up another. Oh, here we go. Okay, so I'm not getting any votes, so I'm just going to do what I think is the next thing to do, which I think is to talk about DEI science. Thanks, Ian. I'm not going to talk any politics yet, okay? I'm not sure if I want to talk politics. I spent a long time talking about politics for many years, and I've realized that, again, like the polarity thing. It's like you spend a lot of time on one side, and you start to see that the other side has points too. I don't think DEI is great, but I also don't want to spend too much time worried about it right now. So let's see. I want to do an I Ching reading, and I thought the most interesting question to ask the I Ching. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the I Ching is a method of divination. You toss coins and then you consult the book. I have the book right here. And basically you toss the coins and you get yin and yang. So you can see here, yin is the broken line, yang is the solid line. And so the question I want to ask, I'll put it in my notebook here. I want to ask, what do the viewers of the live stream, what do all of us together need to know now? So the question is, what do we need to know? Need to know now. And then I leave it up to synchronicity to tell us, what do we need to know? So let's toss the coins and see what happens. Put myself on the screen here. So we got the coins. You can see them. Okay, yes, I can't have it. There we go. All right, yin. So we do this 6 times. First one is yin. And now we get yin, but changing yin. So it's extreme yin, and that becomes yang. So yin, yin, and yin changing into yang. Yin once again. So that means that the first hexagram, I don't know if you can see that, but it is earth. So we'll switch back here. I'll show you. Earth right here. 3 yin lines. Okay. And because it's changing in the middle, the other side is water. See, yin, yang, yin. All right. Yin changing once again. That's 4. Number 5. Yang. And the last time, yin. All right. So now we have 2 different sets, and we'll switch back so you can see it a little better. Sorry, my focus, I changed the focus so it's not refocusing over and over, but so we have earth underneath water, and then water underneath lake. So then I look in the back to see which number it is, and we read the passage. So earth under water is number 8. And then water under lake is number 47. So now we turn to passage 8, and I will read it to you. Holding together. I feel like that's appropriate for a group question, a question for all of us. Seek union with others and with the sage. Holding together denotes a time for creating union with others in order to complement and assist one another. Just as the rain complements and assists the earth, which is water over earth, right? Which is an image often associated with this hexagram. In order for your unions to bear the greatest possible fruit, certain requirements must be met. This is what we were talking about, is manifestation. In order for certain things to come, you must reach certain requirements. First requirement for holding together with others is that we hold together with our own inner truth. This means that we adhere to proper principles as a matter of habit, striving always to remain innocent, balanced, and correct. In short, marry the sage first and faithfully, and good fortune will come to all subsequent marriages. So it's talking. So the word union is speaking to the idea of marriage, right? The second requirement for holding together with others is that we steadfastly resist the clamoring of the emotional inferiors within. Every union meets with challenges, and if we are not resolute against the effects of fear, doubt, despair, and anger, no lasting success will be possible in any relationship. This is a good time to ask yourself if you are displaying the steadfast correctness and strength of character that are at the heart of all great unions. Finally, it is the responsibility of one who would unite to see that it is possible for others to enjoy union as well. The desire for community is deeply felt by all humans, and it is the shared responsibility of all those on the higher path to make some sort of family available to those in need. In doing this, we pay homage to the sage. I love that this is about creating a union, creating community between one another. I feel like that's a perfect answer to a communal question, as I said. Praise Christ Yoga says, union can also be the union to God. Yes, that's what it's saying here. When it says the word sage, the sage is that which speaks through the I Ching, which I believe is God, or spirit. So the two lines that are changing, we read those. The second line, do not throw yourself away by worshiping inferiors. Maintaining proper principles maintains one's dignity. So the inferiors, as I was saying before, talking about manifestation, if we try to manifest things because we think that we want them, because we're really just feeling greedy or trying to escape difficulty, these are the inferiors within us, those things that of our ego that make us want to, get something just to make our life easier, as opposed to seeking that which is for our greatest spiritual growth. And then the next changing line is changing line number 4. Remain constant in the use of proper principles and success will surround you. Yep, that's what we were saying. All right, so let's go to 47. That's the changing hexagram, and to give us more perspective on this advice. Oppression or exhaustion. Maybe I'm feeling a little exhausted myself. An unavoidable time of adversity. Quiet strength ensures a later success. So let me know in the chat if you are having a unavoidable time of adversity. Perhaps this is speaking to you. I've felt that way. Definitely this week I've felt that way. It is a time of oppression and exhaustion. None of us escapes such moments. They are simply a part of living. By meeting them in the correct spirit and cheerfully bending instead of breaking, you weather the adversity and meet with success at a later time. Inferior elements, either in oneself, another, or the larger world, interfere now to restrain the superior person. It is foolish to fight against the restraint. Success is simply not possible now. Rid yourself of the desire to progress and return to neutrality and acceptance. The stubborn pursuit of results will bring misfortune. I feel like this is such a perfect lesson for what we're talking about manifestation. That was one of my first instincts when I was going to talk about manifestation, was to caution about misusing manifestation or misusing our desire for something. So what that's saying is that sometimes we meet ourselves with an obstacle, and instead of battling this obstacle or trying to destroy it, with brute force, it is better to accept that the obstacle is there and to wait for it to pass of its own accord. And I don't know about you guys, but I definitely have felt that this week. I wanted to get a video out and I wasn't able to get it out, and I realized I want to make the video good. I want to make it as good as I can. I'm not going to just push it out onto YouTube. So I feel like I definitely felt that this week. I felt like I couldn't get much done, and this is kind of reassuring me. It's like, it's okay. You're not always going to be as productive as you want to be, right? I mean, it's good to do your best, but sometimes you meet up against an obstacle. With others, quietness and equanimity are the watchwords of the moment. Say little and say it gently. A similar reticence and gentleness should be applied to yourself. Do not lapse into impatience or mistrust of the deity. Accept that the creative often works in a way that we cannot see or understand. This is what I was talking about. Like, if you're trying to manifest something, you might end up getting upset or worried that it's not happening, and you need to, as it says, do not lapse into impatience or mistrust of the deity, of God. Do not mistrust God. A feeling of despair or depression is a sign that you are holding a false belief. I was feeling that this week, yeah. To perpetuate an untruth about yourself, another, or the sage is to block your own happiness. Root out and remove any idea or attitude which causes negative feelings. That's what we're talking about, the beliefs, right? By opening your mind, quieting your heart, and calmly holding to proper principles, you make it possible for the creative to eliminate the oppression that currently exists. You know, I'll give away a video idea that I want to do. This emotional scale. It is my belief that this emotional scale is at the core of all spiritual practices. In that, all spiritual practices are trying to work to get you to the highest point, and there's a different scale that I wish I could find it, but I think it goes beyond joy and appreciation. The step above joy and appreciation is oneness with God. And it is a state of acceptance that we are one with God, and a state that God has total control, and all outcomes that all the ultimate outcomes are that which God intends, and they are the good outcomes. So all prayer, manifestation, meditation, visualization, whatever practice, is to constantly raise our vibration to get closer to understanding that we are one with God. And in so doing, we can allow God to take care of us and to take care of our lives the way that we truly desire Him to. So I want to make a video about that, but that is the quick rundown version. And if you've made it this far in this live stream, you deserve to hear it. Let's see, I've gathered some more materials for this live stream. I was going to share them. Here's another fractal. This one's really cool because it repeats so quickly. It's like, you can see it just keeps repeating, and it kind of blows your mind. I don't know about you guys, but when I look at this, it really kind of, I mean, maybe because we're so used to the three-dimensional world, and this kind of represents the way the universe works, right? So as we zoom in, we see it repeated over and over. Surprised anger is so high. Oh yeah, let's go back to that. Have you heard the sound that does that? I'm not sure, but I'm sure it exists. So anger, okay, yeah. You know, a lot of these scales are a little different, but most of them put like self-blame for as far down. So it's kind of like, it's like what you can see on this scale is the further down the scale you go, the more of a negative belief you hold about yourself. And so anger is like, it's like you're not blaming yourself, now you're blaming somebody else, which is not good. It's not, obviously not a positive emotion, but it's more positive than, say, guilt or despair, right? So like despair being at the absolute bottom, being because you feel powerless, right? That's on there too, powerlessness. Yeah, I don't know if it's that useful to talk about the difference between anger and revenge, or hatred and anger, or jealousy and blame, or, you know, the negative emotions. I guess it's like, you know, the way that they explain using this scale is, okay, if you are in a state of guilt, maybe you can move up to a state of anger by like shifting the blame somewhere else. And then once you're in a state of anger, you can move to a state of doubt or disappointment by softening your anger. And once you're in a state of disappointment, maybe you can move up to a state of acceptance, which is sort of between 7 and 8. And once you're in a state of acceptance, now you can move to a state of hopelessness. So you can see it's a guideline to help you move up the scale. I think the best practice is to... Hey, I just noticed that our music stopped, so why don't we fix that? I think the best practice is to simply jump to the top by engaging in prayer and meditation and to feel that connection with God. And that takes practice, but to me, that's the ultimate goal of this idea, is to climb this spectrum up to the top and then to realize that you are one with God and then be able to accept whatever it is that's happening in your life and to be happy and joyful that you are alive, that you are conscious. And there's, obviously there's a lot of different ways to look at that and to approach that. All right, we got 16 minutes left. I said it would be a chill stream because I was feeling like I wanted to kind of take a break from being serious and take a break from sharing all this stuff. But I have so much to share that I didn't really get to do that. But I'm so excited to share some of these ideas. One of the coolest ideas. So we were talking about purpose, and I mentioned Bashar's idea of following your highest excitement. But I actually found somebody who gave it another twist or another idea about this, which is to follow your curiosity. What is it that you, and this is similar to some of the things we talked about with purpose. It's like, what does your bookshelf look like? What does your YouTube history look like? What have you put in 10,000 hours of your own free time to do in order to become a master of? That is one of the great methods of finding your passion. Where does your greatest curiosity lay? Because whatever subject it is, you can go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into that thing. So where is your curiosity just insatiable, right? For me, it's been spirituality and philosophy, like the ideas of manifestation, like how does it work? And kind of like the scientific, like what can science prove about manifestation, about consciousness, about the way that our thoughts create reality. Like, I'm intensely curious about that. I'm also intensely curious and eager to share it with people. I'm excited and eager to share these ideas and I'm curious about I'm so excited for all of the participants in this live stream, but also going forward, every time I make a video, I'm so excited when I get a comment. I'm intensely curious about what other people think about these ideas, and I'm intensely curious about how the dialogue is going to go about these ideas. Because I've spent so much time studying them kind of on my own, and I've shared them to a certain degree, but it's only recently that I feel like I've realized that there's so many people interested in these ideas, which is why I created the Way of Service. So that is where my curiosity lays. So I feel like that is a great question. What is the thing that makes you intensely curious? If you want to share in the chat, please go ahead and do that. Related is the types of intelligence, right? So if you're not sure about what makes you curious, or you want to just kind of start from scratch, it's like, look at, I didn't put it on the screen, I'm sorry. Look at this list of the different intelligences and which one is the most exciting and interesting to you, right? So like for me, it's definitely like the bottom two, interpersonal and existential. And also logical and mathematical. I wonder if this is organized so that they're kind of like related to each other. But like these three together are very, very interesting to me. And everyone has, their different interests. So, which of these intelligences is the most interesting to you? And which one do you have natural skills in? This goes back to the Ikigai diagram. What is interesting to you? What do you love? And also, what are your skills and strengths? And then also, what does the world need? What can you be paid for? That'll help you define your purpose. So here's the intelligences again. Yale says the Shepherd scale. I'll have to look that up. It'll be interesting to hear this the music. Music is so quiet, isn't it? Let's see if I can turn it up. All right. So Yale says, too many things make me curious. That's my issue. Yeah, that's a funny thing. Yeah, I feel like that happens. And hey, maybe you're just supposed to. Maybe right now you're just supposed to kind of bounce around, and I mean, our purpose is not ever one specific thing forever. And again, the principle of rhythm in our life. The pendulum will swing. The pendulum will swing to you knowing exactly what you're supposed to be doing every day, back to not being sure and exploring all the different possibilities. And then you start to hone in on the thing that you want to look at, and then you go back to being sure about what you want to do. I would recommend, though, that you try to choose the thing, because it's easy in today's world to have ADD basically and just constantly be bouncing around. I think that's kind of an unnatural state that we've reached, and I do recommend that you try to find something and focus on it for a period of time to to give yourself a chance to see if that's the thing that you're the most interested in. And my next video is about this, and I want to help people to go to wayofservice.com, join our Discord, sign up to work with me, because this is what I want to help people with. Honing in on your purpose by looking at your history, by looking at your astrology, by looking at all the different aspects in your life, because I do believe that our life has very specific themes that lead us to where we want to go. And there's a lot of distractions along the way. But I do think that if you make a concerted effort, you'll be able to hone in more specifically. Susan says, hi, bad service up here in Wisconsin. Finally got a signal, I guess. Well, welcome to the stream, Susan. Glad to have you, as always. I love you. All right. Let's see what else. We got 9 minutes left, and I've gone through a lot of my stuff here. I just thought I'd show you some of the fun images that I found. I remember I was telling you about Zelda. Here's Link pulling the sword out in the Temple of Time. Here he is again. Oh, this one's a better version. One of the great games of all time, the Ocarina of Time. Let's see. Oh, I wanted to share this diagram of wisdom. We talked about wisdom last time. So you can see wisdom is here. And so this is the trivium, right? So everything is built on knowledge, which is available information. That's knowledge that may be gathered and understood and acted upon. That leads to understanding, which is decision making. These are the processes that take place in the human mind and are chosen by each individual based on available information. That leads to wisdom, which is human behavior based on understanding. Each individual's behavior is based upon the quality of their decision-making processes, which in turn are based on the quality of their available information. And the result in the world that we get is a result of the wisdom, the collective wisdom of everyone, right? So you can see how important wisdom is. So understanding is kind of like what we can turn knowledge into, and then wisdom is, I believe, combining all of our different understandings into the way that we live our life. And then the way that we live our life gives us the manifested world, what happens in the real world. And as I mentioned, this is the trivium, which used to be taught to children, but is no longer because our education system is no good, which I made a video about. Susan says, it is a gift from God to be curious. Enjoy your gift. It is so cool that you say that, because that is exactly how this guy described it. He was like, curiosity is innate in children. We are born curious. And so tapping into your curiosity, and it's interesting you said you're a jack of all trades, or you're curious about so many different things, which is amazing. But I feel like there are certain subjects that our curiosity just is insatiable, and that is the thing that you should go look at, as opposed to just being curious about this surface fact or this idea. You look at this, it's like, oh, I wonder how that works. Oh, that's cool, whatever. But more like, I wonder how that works, and then you learn, and then you're like, okay, I want to know more. Okay, I want to know more. And you just keep wanting to know more on this particular subject. That is, as Susan says, your God's gift to you is that curiosity, which is insatiable, which will lead you through your life. I believe that that is a great method of finding your path. All right, what else did I get together for this one? These two videos from my hard work video, I just love it. And this Princess Bride video, let's see if we can get it to play. Yeah, because it was so quiet in the video. That was one of the first videos I made. And it's so quiet. I'm going to have to turn it up here. I don't know if I can get it for you to hear it. Basically, these are the quotes that I don't agree with, but they're hilarious because you hear these in your life. You've heard these from cynical people, right? So I'm going to turn this up briefly. Let's stop the music. Turn this up.
Life is pain, Highness. Anyone who says differently is selling something.
If you haven't seen The Princess Bride, it's one of the greatest movies of all time. And I definitely recommend it. Also, here, we'll play this Monty Burns quote.
I'll keep it short and sweet. Family, religion, friendship. These are the 3 demons you must slay if you wish to succeed in business. When opportunity knocks, you don't want to be driving to the maternity hospital or sitting in some phony baloney church. Or synagogue. Questions?
It's one of the great scenes. You just, again, it's like, the idea that life is painful, the idea that life is not supposed to be fun. I believe it's the exact opposite of that. But if you listen to these villains, and the Man in Black is pretending to be a villain there, if you know the movie, you'll believe that life is supposed to be painful. And so many people live their lives that way. And that's why I'm trying to do my best to make people understand that they don't have to live their life in a painful way, that life can be joyful and exciting, and you can serve others and make the world a better place. Basically, all the things can work together to make life beautiful and amazing, and that's the way it's supposed to be, right? It's the opposite of those quotes, but those quotes are a perfect juxtaposition for us. All right. What else do we have here? Types of meditation. This is an interesting one. So not on this list is astral travel, which has been the most powerful for me, using music and visualization. I have a video about that. Check it out if you're interested. Let's see. Let's go to the great video pictures. I've gotten so many pictures. I thought this was interesting because we had discussed social media. So this is the effect of all these different social medias on these different things. So you can see that there are positive aspects at the bottom, right? Self-expression. People on Instagram report that Instagram helps them with self-expression. Doesn't help with sleep, right? Doesn't help with feeling FOMO or body image, right? So this chart can help you to be more cognizant of the effects of social media on your life. All right. What else do we have here? We got the Terminator. We got this from my AI video. This was a good one from a previous stream. again, finding your purpose, if you can find your zodiac sign on this chart and see which element that you are the most closely associated with. And then go check out the 5 elements video where I talk about the different aspects of the elements, because the principles of the elements correspond to some of the things that you probably have a strength in. Like for me, I'm a Pisces, and I have the empathy, I have the imaginative life. I'm probably more emotional, and I like to follow my intuition, right? Let's see what else we've got here. Just a few more minutes left. These are all the pictures that I've either created or grabbed for my videos. I like this one. This one is my picture in my Lao Tzu video. I'll read you the quote, which I think is a great quote, while I show you this picture. We're going to look up half enlightened. Oh, we're in the wrong book here. Okay. Yeah, here we go. The world is full of half-enlightened masters, overly clever, too sensitive to live in the real world. They surround themselves with selfish pleasures and bestow their grandiose teachings upon the unwary. Prematurely publicizing themselves, intent about reaching some spiritual climax, they constantly sacrifice the truth and deviate from the Tao. What they really offer the world is their own confusion. And he looks pretty confused, don't you think? Another related quote is, enlightenment is not the goal, but the means. So once we are enlightened, then we live our lives in an enlightened way, as opposed to reaching enlightenment and being done with life. It's the opposite. It works the opposite way. I like this one. Picture of meditating in the middle of everything. So being undisturbed by the world. And here's just a beautiful picture. Maybe we'll end on that one. Go meditate next to that lake, and you'll have a good time. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining the live stream. I have had a great time. I love doing these. I love interacting with you. That is really where my joy and passion lies. Check out my website, wayofservice.com. Check out my other videos. Leave comments. Send me a message. Join the Discord. I want to talk to you. I want to know what you think about all these ideas. I especially want to know if you disagree. If you disagree with me, that is the most interesting, because I feel like that it's in the discussion of the disagreements that we can really find some answers. Matthew A. says, all gifts, all knowledge is not an end unto itself, but tools to be used to benefit all mankind. Right. Yeah, you're speaking to enlightenment is not the ends, but the means. This was a good one today. Thank you, Matthew. I'm glad. Ian says, Ian Park says, great show, clap, clap. I am so smart now. That's great. Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate that. And it means the world to me to know that my work is helping you, is beneficial and interesting and useful. So on that note, I love you, and I'll see you next